Hello, Al Pals. This is Big Al, and welcome to Big Al Presents Shark Movies. That's right, it's July, it's the summertime, people are flocking to the beach, and I still remember sitting in a movie theater when I was 10 years old, being scared to death of getting eaten by a shark because of a very popular shark movie at the time, which I will, of course, talk about in a moment. But I wanted to just, bring up some of my favorite and maybe not so favorite shark movies. I don't want to really talk about the sci fi film type of shark movies that you'll find on the Sci Fi Network. Uh, the things like Sharknado, Robo Shark, Mega Shark, Sharktopus, uh, all fun films in their own right, but I wanted to concentrate on those films that may want to keep you out of the water uh, during the summertime. Those wonderful films that you you watch that are talked about during Shark Week, and that really might want to keep you out of the water. And speaking of staying out of the water, when I was young, Jaws was a monster hit. Yes, pun completely intended. Jaws was an absolute phenomenon. 1975, Jaws came out, of course, directed by Steven Spielberg, from the story by Peter Benchley. This film pretty much defined the summer blockbuster. Of course, it was the highest uh, grossing film of all time until a couple of years later when a little sci fi film called Star Wars came out. But when Jaws came out, it was an absolutely frightening film. It was a phenomenon during that year. Shark attacks became uh, very relevant in the public conscience. And quite frankly, Jaws is a fantastic film. It is still, to this day, one of my favorite films of all time. I look forward to it anytime that I see it on. It's a great watch, great performances by Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. Of course, very different from the book by Peter Benchley in many respects, but it is just a wonderful summertime film. Perhaps the definitive summertime watch. Uh, I love watching it every year, um, at least during July, once or twice at least during July. But I enjoy this film all through the year. And while we're on Jaws, um, I mentioned before that I would be discussing some films that may not be the best or my favorite. And unfortunately, that also includes other films in the Jaws franchise. Jaws 2, I will say, wasn't a bad film. Of course not. Not close to the wonderful its wonderful predecessor. But I will admit it had one of the best taglines that any film could ever have. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, here comes the shark again. 3 years later, people were just getting over Jaws. Uh, and they put out Jaws 2. It just didn't resonate as much. Roy Scheider did return, uh, and he kind of was the only um, one that returned. Of course, Richard Dreyfuss did not return for this one, and of course, the other guy was eaten by the shark in the film. Sorry, spoiler. Uh, but yeah, Jaws 2. Then several years later, we get Jaws 3D. Of course, now most people just call it Jaws 3 because, a lot of people just don't worry about 3D as much at home. But at the time, 1983, they were putting anything they could out in 3D. Friday the 13th, 3D. The third one was 3D. Uh, just just 3D was kind of a fad back in the early to mid 80s, and Jaws 3D. Of course, what better way to try to sell your movie than making it look like a shark is really going to eat you? It had some interesting 3D effects, nothing spectacular. The story was kind of weak. Took place at a SeaWorld type facility, and a continuation of the family theme. The main characters were the sons of Sheriff Brody, and the last film in the franchise. Less said, the better. Jaws, The Revenge. This time it's personal, and this time it really was not a good film. Continuation with the Brody family. Of course, Lori and Gary returned as Mrs. Sheriff Brody, uh, who, sorry, spoiler, had passed away by the time this film came around. I believe they mentioned that it was his heart that gave out on him from all the times he had been taking on those sharks. His heart just couldn't take anymore. But of course, Jaws isn't the only shark films out there. Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea is just shy of a sci-fi type film, but it had a great budget, had a really good cast, and it's what happens when you take a shark and you increase its intelligence, and of course it becomes so smart that it finds ways to kill you. It's an okay film. A lot of people love this film. Definitely worth seeing if you love shark movies. It's a definite definite one to sit down and to check out. Of course, your mileage may vary. I always say that. My next choice is Open Water, and here we kind of start the type of film that I really enjoy. Uh, the people who are stranded and surrounded by sharks trying to stay alive. Open Water, of course, as you read there, based on true events, and I do remember them talking about this. A couple got stranded at sea in the water, left by their excursion boat, and were never seen again. And this film is a very tense drama, and definitely lots of thrills, and it is a very tragic film. Spoiler: they never saw any of them again. But of course, how do you know what the story is? What happened if you never see them again? Like I said, it's dramatic license, but it's a very well done film. And of course, in the very same vein, almost exactly the same vein, The Reef. Pray that you drown first. Some friends go out on a yacht uh, to go sailing to get reacquainted. The boat overturns, and they have to make their way 12 miles or so through shark infested waters, and You follow their adventures. I will say this one is just a recent watch I had. I do have a full review on Big Al's Review-O-Rama of this film. I liked it. It's very intense, um, very gripping, and definitely will have you questioning going out on a boat and getting into the water. Along the same lines again, The Shallows with the lovely Blake Lively. She goes to go surfing and ends up stranded on a reef, not that far from shore, but far enough that she's not going to be able to make it because there's a shark circling her, and she has to outwit this shark. And not helping her at all, she has a huge gash on her legs, so she's bleeding, which of course is not helping her stay away from not attracting the shark. Um, a great little film. It's a very personal story. Uh, it's very well done. Blake Lively gives a really strong performance in this film. I really suggest this one. 47 Meters Down. Another recent watch of mine that I have reviewed recently on Big House Review-O-Rama. If you want the full review, stars Mandy Moore and Claire Holt as two sisters who go down in a shark cage to kind of, see the sharks, get a little thrill while they're on vacation, and the winch breaks and they plummet down in the shark tank, as you can see from the poster, and they have to not only worry about the sharks, but their oxygen running out. Another really good film, very well, very great photography in this film. I like the way they shot it. It puts you right in the cage with them. Uh, um, both of them give great performances, and there are a few great jump scares in this film, and one shot that is done with light that they go from darkness and there's a lit flare, and it is a creepy, creepy shot, and does make your hair stand up on that. Really good film. Uh, The Meg, a big, big summer film from last year. Didn't set the world on fire, uh, but I watched it and I truly enjoyed this film. You basically got a huge, huge megalodon. Of course, the prehistoric shark that everyone thinks is extinct. Is it? There's still people to this day that think megalodons are somewhere out there in the ocean depths and we just haven't come across them. Of course, in this film, they come across uh, one or two and end up having a hell of a time trying to outwit that sucker. I will say a lot of shark films, they either overload you with a lot of sharks or big sharks. Of course, the original Jaws, 25-footer, and I believe each film they increase the size of the shark a little bit. Of course, you always have to increase the fear factor. So 2018 takes a lot to scare anybody anymore. So let's take the biggest shark we can think of, 60 foot or so, if not more, and let's have Jason Statham, one of the toughest men on the planet, take on the big gigantic killer shark. It's a fun film, enjoy it, don't expect Jaws. Don't don't expect these great performances. It's an action film about a big giant shark. It's exactly what it needs to be. Just sit back and enjoy. Like I said, I didn't want to go too in depth on all shark films out there. Just wanted to present a few that I think people would enjoy during the summertime. Great summertime watches on a hot day. You can't be at the beach, but you kind of want to have um, some fun in the water, but you don't want to leave your air conditioner. Pop these into your DVD player or stream them on your streaming service. Have a great time. And for those who like a shark movie, I've got a movie that I really enjoy, and it's along a similar vein. But it's not a shark movie, but it definitely was influenced by a shark movie, Piranha. If you're looking for something a little small to nibble on, get it, nibble on. Piranha from 1978, the original, is a really fun film. Uh, I enjoy it. It's old school for people who like those the late '70s films, early '80s horror type films. I really suggest it. Like I said, if you get tired of the really big shark, go for the little nibbler. Uh, it's a fun watch. Uh, Hope you all have a fun and safe summertime with our beloved sharks roaming the ocean, just ready and willing to eat you. Um, yeah, I'm kind of joking around, but really, you go to the beach, be safe, enjoy, use sunscreen, and watch out for those dorsal fins. Take care.